everyone, I'm Haley. Think about the people who lead you. Your teachers, your parents, and the president. People who are in charge are good leaders when they do what's best for you. But what happens when they don't do what's best for you? God's people in Israel had some bad kings, evil kings. Let's watch.
God's people, the nation of Israel, had been led by many people over the years. Moses, Joshua, and then several judges. Do you remember Deborah, Gideon, and Samson? Then came Samuel, and God's people asked for a king. Saul became king, and then David, and then Solomon. By the time King Solomon died, the nation of Israel had split into two kingdoms. Israel, the northern kingdom, and Judah, the southern kingdom. And a time began when the nation of Israel was ruled by kings who did not love God and did not lead God's people like they should. Baasha was the third king to rule over Israel. He was an evil king. Baasha had killed Israel's second king, King Nadab, to take over the throne. Baasha did evil things, and he led the people of Israel to sin. This made God angry. God sent a prophet to tell Baasha that he would not be king anymore. Baasha died, and his son Elah became Israel's king. Elah wasn't king for very long, and he wasn't a very good king. Elah was like his father, and he made God angry because he worshiped idols and caused Israel to sin. After 2 years, Zimri, a commander in Elah's army, planned to kill Elah, and he did. Zimri killed Elah and everyone in Elah's family. Zimri became king, and he acted like Elah and Baasha. He was an evil king and caused Israel to sin. The people of Israel didn't want Zimri to be king. The people chose Omri, the commander of the army, to be king of Israel. Omri took over the city Zimri was in, and Zimri was afraid. He knew he could not win against Omri. Zimri was king for just 7 days when he went into his house and set it on fire. The house burnt down with Zimri inside, and Zimri died. Now Omri was king, the 6th king of Israel. While Omri was king, he bought a hill and built a city named Samaria. Omri was like the kings before him. He worshipped idols and caused Israel to sin. This made God angry. Omri died, and his son Ahab became king of Israel. Ahab was more evil than the kings who were before him. More evil than Omri, more evil than Zimri, more evil than Elah, and more evil than Baasha. Ahab was a very evil king. He married Jezebel, who encouraged him to do evil things. Ahab began to serve and worship the false god Baal. He built an altar for Baal in Samaria, and all the things Ahab did made God very angry. God's people asked for a king to lead them, but no king led them perfectly. Was there any king on earth who would be faithful? God would send a king from heaven, his own son, who would lead God's people back to God. He would be the King of all kings, Jesus Christ.
Those were some bad kings. They did not love God, and they did not lead God's people like they should. We should pray for our leaders. The best news is that Jesus is our true king. See you next time.